One, two, one, two, one. Turn me up. Turn me up.
The champ is here.
Welcome to the People's Podcast. I am your host, V-Ben Israel, the People's Champ. I'm up late, y'all. It's almost 4 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. And I got a little bit of insomnia now because I fell asleep earlier after I ate dinner. And now I'm up. So I felt like jumping on here, talk to y'all a little bit. And if you're joining me, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I thought about something. I was catching up on the news and I decided to share my thinking with y'all. You know, there are some people who are defiant for the sake of being defiant. Here is what I mean by that. No matter, and it's real ugly when it's a man doing it, and usually when it's men in today's environment, it's the, as Fred Sanford would say, those guys, the shaky guys, you're not really sure what they are. We're not sure what side of the fence they on. And Fred Sanford would go. But he would say something to Lamont or something, that guy is I wish I could quote him directly, but I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube footage on Sanford and Son when Fred does that. You know who he's talking about. The the LMNOP people, those guys. The effeminate men. I'm not calling them LMNOP people, but that's you're not sure what they are, those guys. But these people, men and women, right, are, no matter what position you take, they're going to take the opposite just for the sake of it. You can be 100% right on an issue and they'll still go against you. And normal people look at those people like, what is wrong with you? No matter what, just think about all of the issues and those are the quote unquote woke people, but they're always on the wrong side of the issue. It could be a 90-10. 90% of Americans will be on one side we should keep kids in school safe, for example, should be the issue. But that 10% that they're going to be defiant because it's you, not because of the issue, because happen to, you particularly happen to agree that kids should be safe. And if it weren't for you thinking like that, they would agree themselves. But because you happen to agree that 90, agree that kids should be safe, they're going to go against you. They're going to defy you or be defiant, have that defiant spirit, but they'll go against them what they themselves believe to be right. Here's another issue. I'll be 50 years old this year, right? And all my life, you know, family, when you thought of a family or you thought about somebody starting a family, you thought about a husband, a wife, kids, and maybe even a dog, okay? That's part of the American dream, right? That's typically when somebody would say starting a family, that's what you think of. That's the image. A house, picket fence, couple of cars in the garage. I don't care who you are, where you're from, where you live. That's always been the imagery that was projected. I was born in 1976. So all my life, that's been the image. However, you have people today who are defiant and they go against the thing that they believe their entire lives now. All of a sudden, we're redefining what a family is. Somehow, you can have a family without the husband. That never had been the case before. In order to have a family, there had to be a husband. But they go against, my point is, they go against things to be defiant for the sake of, that's the only other reason is to not be in agreement with you, right? Neck hurt. I'm in my bedroom. Normally I broadcast from back here. But like I said, I got insomnia. So I was really just laying here watching the news. That's what I was doing. And y'all can't see my TV. It's like right in front of my face. So it's like right here. But anyway, some of y'all are wondering, can you see it? I didn't realize that at first, but you can see my tip jar on my bedroom stand on the next to my stand is my tip jar. Some of y'all like, what the hell is it? Why you got a tip jar? Well, for those of you who don't know, you're new to my channel. I, you're gonna have to subscribe to understand the symbolism with the tip jar. But that's a real thing. That's real money in that jar. That's a real jar. I be serious about that shit. I tell women when they come see me, make sure you got some cash for the tip jar. Okay. I don't want to go too far off into that topic, but the way my theory, I was with a woman and who was it? Tasty Cakes, my last girlfriend. She's younger than me. She's she'll be what 34 now. I'm 50 now, but we got to when me and her were together, I was 48. She was 32, and she had an ex-husband, and she did all kind of shit for this guy. Got him cars. He ain't have to work. He even got her best friend pregnant with twins. So that guy, you could give him money and do all kind of stuff and appreciation for him. And then fast forward, she claimed I was so great, to put it mildly, compared to her experiences. I'm not claiming to be that thing. But according to her experiences, I was so great. The best she ever had at certain things. Well, you're gonna hit the chip jar. You get him a car. That's the least you could do is drop me $10 in the tip jar. That's the least you could do. But anyway, but you got people who are defiant. They'll defy you, fight you tooth and nail because you take a position, the right position. It's not in a matter of opinion. Like we talk about factual stuff, case law. They'll go against case law. You know, freedom of speech, for example. We all, as Americans, have all our lives agreed we have freedoms of speech, certain freedoms here in America. But when it comes to you, it don't apply to you because they want to go against you. I'm trying to think of examples of that defiant spirit, just for the sake of being defiant. You know, and it's just ridiculous. You know, it's ridiculous, and it used to be a thing where you gave somebody your word. We used to say things like that, like "word is bond." That's my word. Facts. They kids today like to say facts behind everything, even when it ain't a fact. But that don't mean nothing no more. People give you their word and then turn around and break it. Like it used to be a prideful thing, especially amongst men, to keep your word. Like, nah, I can't break my word. I gave him my word. I said I was gonna meet him somewhere at 9 a.m. at this place. I gave that other man my word. And you did what you said you were gonna do. You were there, right? But you got people today that will say, well, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and they have no intention on doing X, Y, and Z, even though they told you explicitly. It was like an oath. You swore an oath to do something. That used to be a serious thing. But in today's world, no. We have people that'd be defiant. So they'll go against their oath, things that they believe, but because you believe it, now they go to the opposite side. And who I'm talking about is a small minority of people. This ain't, like a 50-50 thing I'm saying. It's like a 90-10 thing. Um, and I'm trying to not make it like political rhetoric, but it's hard not to because there's so many examples of this when you look at politics. And politics is just that. It's supposed to be, people debating on policy. But at some point, the debate has to end. And there are always winners and losers. And I know my generation of men believe this. Again, this is how we grew up. This was the world. You win some, you lose some, you know? And that's what an election is about, or a campaign. You have differences of issues. You you decide to have an election. Before that election, you have a campaign because you're trying to basically you're publicly a campaign is like a public debate on the issues. And then at some point you come together, the people vote who they believe is right and and that's the end of it. You go forward till the next issue or campaign comes up. But you can't just keep campaigning. The campaign has to end. What was it, 2024, right? The campaign ended on November 4th. That's the end of the campaign. November 5th is the election. The people have spoken. That was an expression. They chose who they chose. And it's over. We go forward as Americans. But you have people to this day, they're still campaigning. They're still campaigning. And that's not the way the system was set up. That's not the societal norm. The argument has to end. It can't be endless argument, endless defiance, because that prohibits progression. Ironically, the people who do that, they call themselves progressives. But there's no progress because they're stuck in the argument. They can't move forward into the progress. As a kid, we had competition all through school, and boys, we competed on everything. We competed sometimes to see who could throw a rock the farthest. Be a group of boys outside throwing a rock as far as they can. We found things to compete on, you know. Who could jump the highest, who could run the fastest in school, who could win the spelling bee. We competed on grades. Who can get the highest grade by the end of the semester? Who would be the smartest, quote unquote, student in class? Everything was a competition. And it was a sense of pride when you became the best at whatever it was. Sports, not sports, you know. I remember, you know, the first debate team I was on was in middle school. And even in middle school, like who could do the best research? Who won the most debates, in your school and in your city? We had multiple middle schools that we competed against. And there was a sense of pride with that came with those things, you know. How y'all like this format? I've never done it like this, not just visually, but even the way I'm talking to y'all right now. Um, I'm handling this topic differently than I normally would. If you've ever seen any of my videos previously, I haven't done one like this before. Even the angle I'm sitting sideways on the side of my bed. Like I said, I fell asleep. I nodded the hell out. I had some jogger pants on earlier. All I did is take them off, and I got my shorts on, and I'm chilling. I got to get up early, which is crazy. I'll be getting up around 7 o'clock, but I can't sleep right now. So I'm just sharing a stream of consciousness of mine with you all. Or as we say here in the South, y'all, y'all. Do I have any comments? Thank you, whoever that is. I don't know who that is. Hold on, let me check real quick. Who is that? Who is that? I got a couple of comments. Hold on. RBN is in the house. Shout out to TJ. He said, good morning. Yes, sir. Good morning to you, my brother. My brother from another mother. Oh, he's at the job. So yeah, TJ works late. He's in the works in hospitals. I believe he's a therapist of some kind, physical therapy. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. I apologize for not remembering. TJ's my friend. He's a content creator. He has Through Fire podcast. Make sure y'all subscribe to his channel. Feel free to drop a link. He's a very good podcaster. One of the few people I actually watch his show and I enjoy watching his show. He has a different style from me, different way of doing things, a different perspective sometimes. Many of the times we agree on, you know, how to get to the end. And I guess he's a perfect example of what I mean, coming to agreement. TJ and I agree on a lot of things. We may not agree on the methodology on how to get there, but the end goal is the same. You know, he's temperamental just like I can be. I've been working on that lately because I can get me and my cousin were talking about that. I can get fired up real quick, but we put our differences aside to accomplish something, a goal at the end. Here's the end thing. I'm not just going to defy TJ because we agree on the same things. On the bottom line, that's what's important. We come to an agreement and then we move forward. I know what he'll tell me his thoughts. I'll tell him mine. V, you ain't right. Or I'll say, TJ, I don't know, man. I don't agree with that. He'd be like, I don't give a fuck. I'll be like, okay. And we keep on going because we're trying to accomplish a goal. Bottom line. And I thought that was like the adult thing to do. I thought that's how men worked. That's what I thought. But in today's world, like I said, you got people, even though they agree with you, they want to be defiant just because it's you. And that spirit has always been on the earth. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Nothing new under the sun. By the way, I'm here alone. Ain't nobody in the bed with me. I don't want y'all to think like I'm trying to hide somebody. Ain't nobody in here. Holiday ain't here, nothing. I don't throw people on my podcast. And y'all know Red when she was here back in January. She didn't always jump on the camera, but people would hear her in the background. They knew she was here, even though she has been on the podcast many times, and a lot of y'all liked her, and Amanaz loved her, and a lot of y'all wanted us to get back together. Me and Red hadn't been together in 15 years. I hadn't seen her in person in 15 years, and she got in some trouble and she needed a place to stay. Well, I gave her the rules. Okay, you're welcome to come here because I got love for her, even to this day. Um, even though I had to kick her ass out, um, I gave her the rules. And my rules, as I've expressed to y'all many times, peace, cooperation, and good head. If there's gonna be a woman around me, living with me, and I mean non friends, I ain't talking about a friend, like that's my girl or that's my sister, like those rules wouldn't be for Harmonize, for example. That's my sister. We're not blood sister and brother, but that's effectually the way we've functioned in each other's lives for over 20 years. She's my sister, and her sister is my sister. So, and that's the way we function. That's the way we've always functioned. You know, I'm not one of them dudes who play the friend role so I can try to smash. I'm not one of those people. I'm also, I have female friends, lifelong female friends, going back to elementary school to this day. We're still friends. They ain't never been in a no funny business. We friends, and I treat them like sisters. Um, and I let women know up front. I don't play that friend role shit. Oh, we could be friends. No, baby, we can't. I meet a girl that, oh, I got a man, but we could be friends. No, baby, I'm trying to be your man. Straight up. I let you know coming in the door what it is. I'm gonna put something down your throat at some point. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm a grown ass man. That's the way I'm built. That's the way TJ is built. I know a lot of men who are built like I'm built. We don't play them games. But you got another group of men, that's their choice. They play the friend role and they'll linger around and just hoping that one day they're able to smash. And they never do, but they'll play that role. And they'll sell you out because they just hoping. I ain't never had no coochie problem. My tip jar ain't empty. It's full. And I'm a one woman man. I don't mess with a lot of women. I deal with one woman at a time. They get on my nerves. I don't have the energy, even though I love women, especially black women. That's my preference. I don't deal with multiple women at a time. I can't handle it. So when I'm dealing with a woman, I'm dealing with her. Even if I don't see her every day, you know. But I am who I am, and I gave Red the rules. Peace, cooperation, and good head. That's where it starts. You coming in the door here, you understand that. She came here anyway and tried to play games. See, we had an agreement, and then she broke her word. It's the same thing in today's world where you have a social contract, men and women, and women have broken that contract. Men expect a certain thing in American society, and we're willing to die protecting women so women can have these freedoms that they like to talk about and throw up in your face. But it's a group of men, it always has been for 250 years since the founding of America, that here are the rules. I'm going to sign up to die for you. And if I get with you, if you make a choice to be with me, to be my woman, here are the things you're going to do. That's the unwritten rules. That's always been the social contract. Well, women, I guess around 1970, decided they ain't going to do that. You're gonna hold up your end of the bargain, but I'm not. I'm not gonna do nothing I promised to do. Well, everything I promised to do, I could change it at any moment. That's what I'm saying. And of course you got a few of those guys who do the same thing. Again, they're unmanly because a man understands instinctively when you give your word, you keep your word. It don't matter if later on you don't like the choice that you made. You gave another man your word, or a woman, you gave somebody your word to do a certain thing. That's called duty. You have a duty, right? And women have, they like to be able to always change their word. They give you your word, and then the next day, oh, I ain't mean that. Or I decided to change it. I was married for 20 years. 20 years, 4 kids, and a grandchild. Been through hell with the woman. Ups, downs, you name it. I done been through it all. Domestic violence, infidelity, you name it. I've been through it with her. But after 20 years, when you first of all, let me back it up. When you get married, in sickness and in health, that's the vow, that's the oath you take, right? For richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, right? But when I had a stroke, before I had the stroke, I started getting sick. I didn't just instantly get sick. I started getting sick gradually over a 10-year period. And then I had the stroke and I couldn't work anymore. But she decided she didn't want to be married no more. I'm gonna go back out in the streets after 20 years. I'm gonna go back to the streets. Right? That's what women do today. I come from a family of married people. On both sides of my family, I'm the only one that's divorced. Everybody's been together the entire time you work through your shit because you're able to come to an agreement. Because the goal has always been when you get married, you form a family, you have a duty to the family. And duty means you're responsible for doing certain things. That's a duty. But my wife is a millennial, or my ex-wife rather is a millennial. And millennials particularly, it started with Gen X women, but millennials definitely, your word doesn't mean nothing. You can just change it at any time. So even though I gave this man an oath 20 years ago, well, it'd be more than that now. It would be, we just, even before we got married, we made agreements with each other that we were going to be together and we were going to form a family. So, like my son, my oldest son was born in 2000. He's a millennial. I guess you call him a millennial baby. I think that's what they called him. But before that, me and my ex-wife had been together for 2 years. You know what I mean? So that would put us at 28 and a half years we've known each other. I kept up my end of the bargain. She decided I don't want it no more because I can't get the benefits that she wanted. She can't. I don't make the money that I used to make, and I was a high earning man. I don't make that kind of money no more. I'm not able to. I did sales and marketing, so she was done. I got sick, and it was like fuck me. There were times I was in the hospital by myself, if not for Amanaz and my homeboy John, they came to see me every day. Every day I was in the hospital, either John was there or Amanaz was there. Every matter of fact, Amanaz's house was on fire, literally on fire. Actually, I guess would be a better word, literal and actual. And where was she at when that happened? She was in my house. I mean, rather, she was at my hospital room. When she got the call that the house was on fire from the neighbor, she was sitting in the hospital room with me. And she had just got off an airplane. That's She had been out of town for a couple of days and she had felt bad that she couldn't get to me while she was out of town. So when she got back, she got off the airplane, went to the house, dropped the bags off, came right to the hospital. My boy John was going through his own marital issues at the time. He was at the hospital every single day. And when you're sick, and I mean sick, like you're in the hospital, they admit you for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, there is no time frame on when you're going home yet, you know. You don't know when you go home. That kind of hospital, part of your recovery is family support, family and friends supporting you, being there for you. And those two people were. Again, that's the social contract you have as friends. When you tell somebody you refer to somebody as your friend, there's certain duties that come along with that. TJ would be one of those people, for example, if we lived in close by each other, not necessarily in the same state. I'm not able to get to him, but as my friend, if he needed something, he'd be able to just call me like, "Yo, V, I need you to come through." I would do that for him because he's my friend. You know, the only thing prohibiting me from doing that is he lives so far away, a couple of states over, um, and I don't travel like that. I can, I mean, but I'm limited. My travel ability is limited. I have traveled since I've been legally blind. I have traveled by myself, but I don't do it very often. It would have to be an exceptional circumstance where I would travel like that. But we had another friend, Amanaz, and I had another mutual friend, Kay. Some of you have heard me mention Kay before. Kay was down in Texas, and then she wound up in the hospital. She don't have no family. We her family. So we were last minute. She was able to travel back home, but because usually when you're in the hospital, you got to get released to somebody. It's not always outpatient kind of thing. So we were gonna go down to Texas and go get her. We were making travel plans in the middle of COVID. We were trying to get down there to her. Um, that's a friend. That's a duty that I have to my friend. You're in a hospital. You need help. I'm all you got. I got to do what I can do. If I'm able to do it, I will. I mean, there's some things you just can't do. I'm talking about things that you can freely do. And I'm trying not to go to politics, but you see this in the political world. Again, they're not having a difference of policy. They're just defiant over the person on the other side. Even though that person shares the same belief system, says word for word the same things that you have said. But because it's him, they are defiant, not against the policy, which makes it political. They're defiant against him and what he represents. And it's unbelievable. I mean, in my lifetime, I had never seen anything like that. I've seen people have opposite political beliefs. I've seen that. But somebody who actually you were in agreement and then you weren't. So 1 year, for example, without naming names, 2015, right? Prior to 2015, these people they loved a certain person. That was their friend. And then he decided to make a move in 2015, even though they have the same beliefs still, they immediately were against him. He's the Antichrist, he's Hitler, he's all of the worst things on the planet. And you have people, to come back to a macro level, they do that in your personal life. You're in agreement with them, or they're in agreement with you, and just out of nowhere, you're the devil. And you haven't done anything. It's like you didn't fall out. There was no big cataclysmic event that happened to put y'all on odds with each other. It's astounding. I've never seen anything like this. And that's what I was watching when I was watching the news and, catching up on whatever I missed while I was asleep. I'm like, this shit is amazing. uh, as Americans, if something is good, right, for all of us, it's good for everybody. All of it's good for America, right? Regardless of how we got there, we're here now. This thing is good. They still just want to be defiant against you, even though the things you're doing is good for everybody. We disagreed on how to get here, right? That's the disagreement. But we're here now. We're here now. We're here. Everything is good now. Gas prices. Gas prices are coming down. The war is over. And you got some people that are angry because the thing that they wanted, or they say that they wanted, has arrived. Everybody was fighting over gas prices and in the war, right? That's the most recent thing I could think about affecting the country. Gas prices and the war were the two biggest issues. We're here. The war is over. We got a peace deal. Iran has publicly come out and announced it. Everybody, all of the players involved have come out publicly and announced that deal. So this isn't one person saying we got a deal. This is all sides. We have a deal. The Hormuz Strait is being reopened. The blockade is over. Gas prices are coming down. We already see crude oil is cheaper. We see gas at the pump is like around 70% cheaper. Not 70%, 70 cents cheaper on average. Maybe not where you live, but on average. Some of y'all don't know what average means. Y'all think when somebody says average, that means everybody has it. No, to get an average, do y'all not know how averages work? You know, you that means some people is going to be above average, Some people are below average, but the majority of people are right in the middle. That's average. Y'all don't know how school worked? That's how your grades were calculated. They took an average of your test scores. So your average, let's say, is you got a 70 in the class. That doesn't mean every test you took was a 70. That means you might have had a 90 on some tests. You might have had a 50 on others. And whenever they calculated all of your tests together, you had a score that was right in the middle. And that score came out to be a 70. But y'all don't know how, like, y'all don't, words matter. I got to do another. I used to do them once a year. I got to get back to doing the Words Matter show. Because y'all don't know what words mean. Y'all just like reinvent words to match your feelings, quote unquote. No, words actually have a meaning. Having a dictionary in your house used to be a standard thing in America. Hell, having encyclopedias in your house was a normal thing at one point. But in today's world, y'all just have no clue what a word means. Because back in my day, when you wanted to know you wasn't sure what a word meant, you went to the dictionary. You didn't make up your own definition and expect people to accept it. Words actually mean something. For example, I'm getting off on a tangent again. For example, right? The word standard. Y'all women love to use the word standard. Well, I got standards, right? But the way you're using the word is incorrect. You have preferences. Just because you have a preference doesn't mean you always get that, right? A standard is something you regularly have. The standard is that the speed limit is 55 on the highway or 65 on the highway. That's a general standard everywhere in this country. You might prefer to go 70 because some highways you can go faster than 65, right? That's your preference. But the standard is generally nowadays 65 on the interstate, on most interstates. Now, people go, but because you live someplace where it's 70, that doesn't mean it's true everywhere you go. I've traveled up and down the East Coast, Midwest. I lived in Chicago. Everywhere I've ever traveled, this is true, generally speaking. But some places have upped the speed limit, even here on the East Coast, to 70. But that's not the standard. The standard is 65, you know. And on a non interstate highway, freeway, it's going to be 55. That's generally speaking. I would say that's definitely more of a standard on the non-interstate highways. Like if you want a rural highway, I used to live on one, South Carolina, Highway 9. You got many highways, Highway 1. Highway 1 goes from, maybe that's a better one, from Florida to Ohio. That's Florida highway, that's the old highway system. If you're looking on a map, that's how far it goes. For the most of the time when you're on Highway 1, US 1, it's 55 unless you're in a town. But if you want outside of a town, it's 55. And most highways work that way. US 601, that goes also down to Florida, and I think it goes up. It goes out west somewhere if you go the other way. No, it goes up to up in the mountains of North Carolina. 301 goes up towards Ohio also. 52, US 52, that goes down into South Carolina, and then it goes up into goes up north somewhere. That was the highways that everyone used before the interstates started getting built. And that's why, like, when you drive those highways, um, you don't want to be on the interstate. You get on those highways, or sometimes they're detours. It'll take you through small towns, and those towns aren't really there anymore. Because when the interstates was built, the traffic was diverted, and those towns' economies changed. But you'll see a lot of old buildings and abandoned buildings and things of that nature when you're on the U.S. highway. Some of you don't know the history of this country. You don't know how this country runs historically, how it's ran, and why things are the way they are. I was raised by the old people, and they would teach us these things. And hell, to get my driver's license, my grandfather, he was the son of a bitch. He would always have his own little tests that he would give you. One of those tests you had to be able to read a map. I remember as a kid, he would make us sit down on the floor. You bored? Get out the maps, and he would quiz you. He just had map shit in his head. Like, he didn't even have to look to see if you were right. He knew the map. But the reason the old people were like that is because they grew up in a time before there were interstates. You know, my grandfather is from York, South Carolina. So one of the highways that he traveled a lot would have been three US 321. That highway is cuts through this town that I live in. Even though I'm not in it, I'm about 30 minutes away from where my grandfather grew up in another state. He grew up in South Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. But that highway cuts across. That highway is still in existence. Coincidentally, when you're parts of that highway in Gastonia, where I live, the speed limit gets down as low as 35 because you're in town. But once you get outside of town into the more rural areas, it jumps back up to 55. But that was my tangent on that. But y'all are just defiant, and women really have that defiant spirit. They'll be dead ass wrong, and they'll just defy you to the bitter end. And it's clear they know they're wrong. But that pride, as the scriptures talk about, you know, and there's a lot of scriptures on it. Pride is the beginning of sin, you know. Pride is goes against knowledge some kind of way. I can't remember. I wish I was in the other room where I had my AI and I could ask my AI, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'll go more deeper into that when I do Words Matter. But standard isn't because you want something and you just, oh, that's my standard. Think about it. Your kids come to you and express to you they want a certain toy. Your kid can't turn around and go, "Oh, that's my standard." You get them something else that they didn't ask for, and they say to you, "Oh, but my standard is this thing that I want that I've never had. I've never had that thing before, but because I just put it in my head that I want it, and I'm gonna call it that's my standard." So that's what women do. It's like kids with tits, kids with breasts, and they do that. Oh, I want a man that's 6 feet, six pack abs, six figures. Even though they've never had a man like that in their life, and they don't know a woman who's had a man like that. Let's take it there, right? They've never had it, they've never seen it, but they want it. Oh, this is my standard. No, that's not. That's hell, that's a wish list. That's a preference. I had a conversation with a guy one time, one of Amanaz's friends lives up there in DC. I forget the dude's name. His preference, he wanted Brainiac Beyonce. I'm like, why? First of all, why? Second of all, you've never had that, dude. Not even close to that. You ain't have the Brainiac part by itself, and you damn sure never had the Beyonce part by itself. Never had a woman like that. That ain't a standard. That's a wish list. And I love these guys to get on here and talk a lot of ish, trying to give out advice to younger men and this and that. And they claim to know all this shit about women and all of the women they get with is so fine and all it is, right? They ain't got no receipts though. But be easy. I've showed you live. Those women that I've dealt with over the course of my life, some of them have come up here on this broadcast. You've seen them live. You got to interact with them. They got to validate who I was. And some of them would defend me without me even asking, without me prompting them. Nah, he is what he say he is. He's the real thing. He is his authentic self. They have verified it. Red, for example, I posted pictures of the women that I was dealing with at the time, like real time. I didn't go dig up no old pictures. I showed y'all real life pictures at that time period. Tasty Cakes was one of them. Um, Holiday right now, y'all seen people pictures of Holiday. Some of them were prettier than others. I don't like very pretty women. I told y'all I like fours, fives, and sixes is where I tend to be with women. I don't like dealing with them eight, nines, and tens. They have that again, that entitlement and defiant spirit for no reason. I got women like that in my family. My sisters, some of them. I don't even talk to them because they're so defiant. Everybody, my family, we grew up in at the time in the 80s, 90s, during that time period when there still was a black community. We grew up in a time period where certain rules, societal rules, were still applicable. And we grew up middle class for that time period. My grandparents raised me, so I had a mother and a father in the house. Kids was in the house, cousins, neighbors. Certain rules governed society, and you didn't step outside of those norms. Now, today, a lot of those rules are being broken, you know? Things that my family grew up thinking were the right way to do something. My mother had four sisters. All of them are married. Marion, Gloria, Joyce, excuse me, there were four of them rather. Was three sisters and a brother, plus my mother. So Marion, Gloria, Vera, and Joyce. Those are the four sisters, plus my uncle Tommy, right? Everybody was married except my uncle. So all the girls in the family all were married. My mother's still married. It'll be 46 years this year. And my uncles that are still alive, one of my aunts has passed away. If she hadn't passed away, she would still be married. Two of my uncles have passed away, actually. My aunt Joyce and her husband have been married over 40 years, more than 40 years. Um, so, but you look at the younger women in my family, only two of them, and it's a bunch of them, only two of them are married. They on that sister girl shit. Defiant. They're defying the thing they know to be right. Getting married, having a family, not being baby mamas or any of that shit. Now, none of the women in my family are baby mamas. There are no baby mamas. No, actually, there is one. One of my cousins is a baby mama. Other than her, there are no more baby mamas in my family because that goes against our belief system, the norms, the standard. But yet they vote politically against their own, what they know to be the right way to do things, against their own belief system. And that they think that's right, just being defiant for the sake of being defiant. Who are they defying? The men. Just for the sake of going against the men. Even though all my male cousins, which is three of them, added it, my first cousins, they're all married. Actually, even on my father's side, all of my first cousins, with the exception of one who's gay, are married or have been married. Right? That's the norm. That's the standard. But women in my family today, the younger women, and when I say younger, I mean millennials and older. Marriage, they should be married if they got kids. Only one isn't. And just defiant, I'm gonna go against what I know. She grew up in a household where her mother and father had been married for over 40 years. Why did you decide to be a two-time baby mama? Didn't just do it once, like it was a mistake. She did it again, purposeful, willfully. And then you're defiant against the thing, against the norm that you know to be right and you have benefited from. That's what I mean. The spirit of defiance. Just for being defiant for the sake of being defiant, even when you know it's wrong. But because the men are saying this is the way you should operate, I'm gonna do something different, even though I know it's wrong. And you have that in relationships. The spirit of defiance is so strong. It's a demonic spirit, by the way. It's so strong today in people. This is why the marriage rates have gone down. It's not even a racial thing. The marriage rates have gone down for the entire country. We're not producing enough babies. Well, in the black community, I know that people lately have been saying 20 million. It's actually closer to 50 million. If you start in 1973 and come forward to today, black women have killed nearly 50 million babies. Their average, their standard has been roughly a million abortions a year since 1970. Does that mean every year? Because they're going to try to find the anecdotal or the exception the 1 year where it wasn't a million. Oh, it was only 650,000 this year. Yeah, I said average. I didn't say every year. But if you calculate, some years it was more than a million. Some years it might have been 1.5 million abortions. But when you when you do the average, calculate the total of abortions and divide by, what 1970 till today is what 56 years? No, not 56. 60 years, I think. I'm not doing the math, but whatever, 60 years and divide by 60, you get roughly closer to closer to 50 million abortions, not 20 million. That's a lot. That's a lot. Black women account for what, like 40, almost 50% of abortions, even though they only represent 7% of the population, 6% of they represent like 7%. The black population is like 30%, 13%. Black women would be like 7% of the population, but they account for almost over 40% of the total abortions, almost 50. That doesn't correspond to what black people culturally have agreed with my entire life. But the Bible teaches that a gift will destroy the heart, meaning the mind. Anytime you see the heart in the Bible, it's talking about the mind. So a gift will destroy the mind. And the gift that they were given starting in 1970, no fault divorce nationwide. It started in 1969 in California. And other liberties, freedoms that they've been gifted, entitlements, and it's destroyed their minds. It's destroyed their minds. So much so there is no black community anymore. And black women destroyed it. It's not me bashing. This is me stating historical fact. See, you can't be in charge and don't take responsibility or accountability for that thing that you're in charge of. So black women have been in charge of the black community. They were gifted it. It wasn't because of their accomplishments. It's because in 1970, the laws changed. Family court, entitlement programs, all of that stuff went to the benefit of the black woman, not to the benefit of the black man. And they destroyed, their minds got destroyed, and thus they destroyed the community. The community died in 1989. That's when the black community died. I got to see the remnants of it. There were remnants of it in the 90s. About time 2000 came in, what we called the black community prior to that time period didn't exist anymore. And that's why we see a lot of the things that we see today. That defiant spirit used to be held in check. And it was held in check by the black woman, Big Mama, my grandmother's generation. They held the community in check. You had to behave a certain way. You had to have class, as my grandmother would say. We don't have that anymore today. We have debauchery, and you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to keep your word. And somehow a single baby mama is considered a family. Back in the day, that wasn't a family. You was just a single baby mama, and the community shamed you for being that thing. Hell, if you got pregnant at a young age, they would send you to another state sometimes, often. If you lived in Chicago, they send you down south, or vice versa. If you were down here and got pregnant at too early of an age, they would send you up to New York for a summer or whatever. That was normal. That was the normal thing. But in today's world, they're defiant of black male authority, masculinity. Um, they can they contend that they're against the patriarchy, but in the black community, there's never been a patriarchy. The patriarchy only exists in a dominant society here in America. But the black culture and community had never been patriarchal. It was always matriarchal. But they accuse us of misogyny, but they ignore the truth of the reality is that it's what's going on in the community is misandry. It's not a hatred for women, it's a hatred for men. A defiant spirit against masculinity. Things that men have done for thousands of years culturally, they defiant against that today. Men can't be men. Even in male spaces, even when in a male centric space, they'll come over to that space to try to regulate it, to try to micromanage it. It don't have nothing to do with them. I've seen it. Some of my nephews, you go to a sports thing, Little League or Pop Warner, basketball, Pee Wee League. And it used to be a couple of fathers that would be in the stands. Now you got a group of women, single women, and they from the stands, they trying to micromanage what goes on. They baby got hit too hard in football or something, and they'll jump up and protest. And you didn't see that when I was growing up. This is football. Sometime your baby gonna get hit hard. I remember when my ex-wife, nothing but a bunch of single baby mamas. She got two sisters. We were married, but her sisters weren't. And they were baby mamas. And the boys sometime would get into fights. And I would tell them, let them fight. Stay out of that shit. And they would fight me and be defiant against me. But the boys were better off for it. Let the boys sort out their own issues. That's masculinity. That's how the hierarchy works. And that's the boys establishing themselves at a young age in a hierarchy in the family. But the women wanted to micromanage it. And if they was defiant against me constantly. Mm. So over the last 26 years, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of changes. Thank you for the comments. I see some of my mods have tapped in here and there. It's late. It's Insomniac Theater. I'm wide awake. You new people popping in and out, I appreciate y'all. Welcome to the People's Podcast. I am your host, D. Ben Israel, and this is a little impromptu Insomniac Theater. I'm just up sharing my stream of consciousness. I'm sitting on the side of my bed. This is not where I normally broadcast from. I am simulcasting live on YouTube and I believe on Twitch. No. I'm on X as well. This is the People's Podcast. I've been a content creator for over 15 years, maybe even longer than that. But in this current version of the Matrix, I'm from an older version. And I also dibble dabble in the future here and there as well. I make my predictions, and I got some insider information I bring back from the future. And y'all always fight me. Shout out to the Knicks. I'm not a Knicks fan. Amanaz happens to be one of my mods. She's a Spurs fan. But me and my cousin made a bet before at the beginning. No, no, no. It was around right before, it would have been January. So it was right before the halfway season for the All-Star break. I told him what was going to happen. I predicted both the Knicks and the Spurs would be in the finals. He's a Cleveland fan, and he bet me. He already lost money to me by that point. He's just hopeless. Every year he was betting me, and I'm like, stop. But I'll take his money, and I do. Mm. Our standard bet is 20. So I told him it's more than likely going to be the Knicks, and I told him why. And for the same reason, it was the Spurs. That's the history of the Spurs. They're never the early favorite, but they play well enough and they linger around and hang around key positions and, ranking. And as long as they stay healthy, they win. Tim Duncan and them, Tony Parker, that's how they always won. The Spurs will come out of nowhere and be in the finals all of them years that they were in the finals. The Knicks haven't done it in 53 years, but I saw it happening. Everybody was on Boston and Cleveland was trying to make a run. I said, man, it ain't Milwaukee because of Giannis. I said, no way, man. The Knicks are playing high right now, and if they stay healthy, they're going to surprise everybody. That's what we just saw happen. We witnessed history. Yeah, I had already seen it happen in the future, but y'all had to catch up with me. In this timeline, y'all had to catch back up. And I don't know why he does this every year. Every year I tell him what's going to happen. He don't believe me. Since he was a kid, he in his 40s. Ain't been wrong yet. I keep trying to tell you, don't you try to get tired of giving me money every year. But I'll keep taking it. Some people just ignore observable reality. The women in my family do that too. I'll tell them certain things are going to happen, and they just fight me in defiant, even though those things always happen exactly as I said. And then they come back to me and go, oh, don't say I told you so. I'm like, don't you get tired saying that to me? Even though the thing that like, I'm telling you not to fall in that hole. Don't fall in that ditch. That's good for you, isn't it? But because they want to be defiant against me, just because it's me, they go against their own best interest. To me, that's insanity. I know the definition of insanity is doing everything over and over, expecting a different result. But I think it's also insane to go against your best interest. That's insanity. That's insanity. But I think I'm about to wrap it up. I need to lay down for a little bit. It's getting late. I got to be back up at 7 a.m., 8 at the latest. See what time it is. Let's get the current time. Current time is what, 5:05? Did I see that correctly? I don't see very well, y'all. 5:05. It's 5:05. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. But I thank y'all for stopping by. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out the door. Smash the bell. Hit the subscribe button for that. share to your socials, and we definitely appreciate you visiting the People's Podcast. I am your host, the Ben Israel, the People's Champ. But you can call me V.
It's your boy,